Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. Let's have a conversation. Oh, yeah. Look. Yeah. Hey. Let's have a conversation. Woo. Pick up some gems, life is all you make. Go. We keep it real, we don't talk to fake. Tell them hottest talk show on the net, coming for all the mates. Let's have a conversation. Woo. Pick up some gems, life is all you make. Go. We keep it real, we don't talk to fake. Tell them hottest talk show on the net, coming for all the mates. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. Let's have a conversation.
Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Biggs, CEO of My Best Everyday Coaching and Consulting, and the host of Real Conversations with Michelle. Welcome to the season opener of Real Conversations for 2024. For those of you who are new to my platform, I started this podcast in 2020 when the world as we knew it was in a little bit of disarray. If you guys remember all that was going on between the pandemic, social injustices that were happening, people were learning how to thrive in this new world that we were living in at that time. And I have been going strong since 2020, talking about a variety of life topics. And I consider this to be a lifestyle podcast. That's what it has really evolved into. Talking about a variety of topics with the goal that something shared you'll be able to apply in a positive way in your life or in support of someone else. So tonight I am kicking off this season with a topic titled Living Your Dreams. And I have the honor of having someone who I have worked with and have known for over 24 years join me. And she is a fellow coach, a mayor right now, newly elected mayor, a global speaker, an author, a real estate investor. I am honored to bring on Dr. Linda R. Jordon. Linda.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous.
Good. Why don't you introduce yourself to my audience and talk a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how long you've been
Sure.
doing it? Yes, ma'am.
So, a little bit about me. So, my name is, yes, Dr. Linda R. Jordon, and I am a coach. Well, most importantly, I'm a wife and mother, but I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, a speaker internationally. And yes, most recently, an elected mayor for the town of Butner and real estate investor, professor. So, I do some adult learning, adult teaching. And I think that's pretty much it.
Is that all, Linda? Is that all? I remember when you and I first met, and I had just moved to North Carolina, started working at GlaxoSmithKline, and I was
Uh-huh.
aligned to you as your HR business partner. You were a manager at that time
Yeah.
for what we call the Customer Response Center. And
Hmm.
I just remember you being a quiet spirit. But man, oh man, do not mess with you. You were a very strong leader. And I really
Thank you.
appreciated that about you. So look at you now.
Not
Look
as
at you
quiet.
now. Yeah, look at you now. And I'm like, look at her. And I'm just want to let you know how proud I am of you, first
Oh,
and
thank you.
foremost. And I just thought when I was thinking about this topic, I thought you were the perfect person to join me as my guest, one as a fellow coach as well. So I want people to hear your journey and also learn from your story as well. So why
Sure.
don't you talk about a little bit about how long you were in corporate? When did you be? What made you decide to become a coach? So talk a little bit about your journey.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, yes, I worked for GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals for 27 and a half years. And it was a fabulous experience. Most people probably would say it was okay, but I really enjoyed every single moment of it because there were learning opportunities throughout. And working at GSK gave me the opportunity to do coaching. And so at that particular time, they offered a coaching program because they were looking at making sure that leaders were doing their best, being their best, and making sure they were keeping their employees up to speed. And so I decided, sign me up. I wanted to be a part of the coaching program and fell in love with it. And so it was 4 years of being on the team. And so I got the opportunity to coach individuals from all different aspects of the organization. And then,
And Linda, was that the Job Plus coaching? Were you part of the
yes,
Job
it was
Plus? Yeah,
yes,
because I think
it
we
was.
both joined around the same time, right? In
Yeah,
terms of
because I
Job Plus
was,
coaching. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was fabulous because I got to work with individuals that I would never had the opportunity to do that with. So from sales operations to IT to um, manufacturing, some of the scientists. So it was absolutely fabulous. So I'm very grateful for having that opportunity at GSK to, broaden my knowledge around
Mm-hmm.
capabilities and skills that I didn't realize I had that.
Yeah. And the one thing I tell people about the coaching, I think working in HR, and you definitely were in that space in terms of employee relations,
Yes.
we thought we were coaching when actually we were advising and
Yeah, we were
consulting,
coaching.
right? It was, I think, once I took that course, right, I
Yeah.
realized a different way to get people to the places where they wanted to be
Right.
by asking the right questions. And I think it's
Questions.
important for people to kind of understand that from a coaching perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because most
Hmm.
people think that coaching is like you from an athletic perspective. That's
Yeah,
not what it is. And
absolutely.
at some point, GSK did bring in that what was the name, the coaching athlete coaching or something of that
Yes.
nature. That's
Yeah.
not what coaching is.
Right.
You don't tell
Absolutely.
people or advise them what they need to do. That's more on the mentoring side.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, that I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for that opportunity. So yeah, and so that's how I got into the coaching aspect. How I got into the real estate aspect was I was doing, I call it double duty. I still had my 9 to 5, but Linda always has a plan A, B, C, and D. And
Hmm.
real estate was my plan B, just in case something were to happen.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it was easy. I tell people who I coach, it's oftentimes easier to find something else um, when you're currently, you have your main job, right?
Hmm.
And then you have your plan B, but allows you to have the stability from a financial standpoint while you are building your business, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So,
have to because oftentimes people think, well, I'll just go start a business. Well, it
mhm,
takes money to start a business.
it sure does.
And if you jump from ship A to ship B without thinking about that, you could lose your shirt.
Yeah, yeah. So what made you decide to go into speaking? What was that? What was that all about? How did you step into that space?
That's it's really interesting because I do a lot of the coaching and the training. And then I thought about it. Well, when I'm training, I'm speaking anyway. But how do I take that and really try to monetize and perfect being a really good speaker?
Yes.
And so I just started dibbling and dabbling in that. And then being a part of the John Maxwell leadership team, it gave me an opportunity to really embrace the speaking aspect of it. And so I just, during COVID, I had time to really think about it and really try to perfect my message of how I wanted
Mhm.
to say certain things. And so I just jumped right in.
Yeah.
And
And I tell you, I had my taste of speaking. And to your point, as HR professionals, we were always facilitating
yes.
workshops and doing things like that. But I never saw myself as a speaker. And I had an opportunity to step into that space last year. And I'm like, okay, I guess I can now do some speaking, right? Because we definitely have stories to tell, definitely from working in HR,
Oh,
but
yeah.
also just our experiences and things that we've learned, I think lend itself to
Yeah.
being able to share so that
Hmm.
others can learn
Right.
from what we have done in our lives, right? And in particular in the HR space. And for you, again, being an investor, so talk about your investor business from an
Yeah,
entrepreneurial
sure.
standpoint. Yeah.
So I've been doing real estate investing for 20 plus years. And as I
Mhm.
said, I was doing that while I was working at GSK as I call it my side hustle.
Mhm.
But I did that because, once my daughter was born, I'm thinking, okay, she's going to grow up and want to go to college and want to do this and want to do that. And what if something were to happen? How am I going to afford that? And so I decided to have another stream of income and jumped right in, didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I jumped right in and started learning about real estate investing. But I
Mhm.
quickly learned that I needed to take a step back and really invest in myself to really understand the process.
Mhm.
And so I started networking. But fast forward, so I do rental properties, I do what's called wholesaling. And my husband and I do residential redevelopments or fix and flips for what most people will know as.
Mhm. Mhm. What were some of your lessons learned from an entrepreneurial standpoint, right? Because again, you stepped into this space, you left GSK, retired from GSK,
Hmm.
stepped into this coaching space, um, went full fledged into your real estate business. What's some of your lessons learned?
I'd say one of my biggest lessons was that even though I have a plan, you have to make sure that that plan is outlined.
Mhm.
Very, very specific. I kind of had it, outlined a little bit, but when I became my own boss, I didn't have an administrative assistant. I didn't have a finance person. I didn't have an HR manager. So I became all of those things at one time. I'm thinking, holy cow. So
Mhm.
I really had to think about what's that process flow and what is it going to look like and how am I going to maintain and survive all at the same time of running this business and playing all these roles, making all these decisions and not really having anyone to go to say, okay, let's have a conversation about what we're going to do with X. So
Mhm.
that was one of the main lessons I learned is that planning ahead, making sure you really have a good business plan in place so that
Mhm.
you can execute, but also be able to maneuver that business. But at the same time, most importantly, people go into business because you want to make money. So how do you do that without losing money in the process? So that was
Mhm.
I would say, my biggest learning curve.
Mhm. And how did you prepare for that, Linda?
Oh gosh, a lot of sleepless nights, but I don't need
Okay.
a lot of sleep anyway. But really reaching out to other individuals who have already done it, who've been successful. So
Mhm.
networking is key. So making those connections and understanding what is it that I need to do, how do I need to do it, and who else do I need to connect with.
Mhm.
Most importantly, I got a coach from through the SBA and making sure that I wasn't missing a beat in any of those processes and having that individual to help me along the way to make sure that I was doing things the way that I should.
Mhm. How did you how did you differentiate yourself, or what did you do to make sure you were differentiating yourself?
In the beginning, I wasn't differentiating. I was just like doing my thing, and then
Okay.
yeah, when I got into the speaking, though, that's when it truly hit me that okay, hey, you've got to really differentiate yourself and
Right.
who is that person. I didn't realize that I was already differentiated in the real estate world because people know me as the landlord person, or
Okay.
they just know me that way.
Right.
And I didn't really realize that until I was changing directions. But in the speaking world, I had to figure out, okay, who is Linda Jordon? And then when I became Dr. Linda Jordon, I thought, that might be the differentiator,
Mhm.
but still, I need to have that platform. And so I had to really do some soul searching.
Mhm.
And when I wrote my book, then I really figured, okay, yeah, this is where I really want to go. And that's how I formed Illuminating Your Potential, Living Your Best Life.
Okay. All right. And talk about your book a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I had never thought about writing my own book.
Mhm.
It came in my mind, but I thought that'll never happen. So during COVID, I was a participant in a lot of book collaborations. And then I thought, hey, I'm writing all these daggone chapters. I
Mhm.
could write my
Mhm.
own book.
Mhm.
And so, I did some research on that process and I found someone to assist me, had an editor. But what I really wanted to write was about, I'm a country girl from Virginia. And who would have thought that I would have come from working in the fields and being on a farm to where I am today. And so, what I wanted to do was to share that with the world and people that wanted to learn more about it, about how you unleash that inner CEO, because we all have that capability and that skill set deep inside. But how do you unleash that and become your own boss? And so, hence the title of my book, Unleash Your Inner CEO, A Country Girl's Guide to Being Your Own Boss. So to help people understand, there's a couple of kernels that we all have, and how do
Mhm.
you take that and just like planting a seed, you put it in the ground and you watch it grow. So how do
Mhm.
you do that for yourself so that
Mhm.
you can live your best life?
Yeah. Any tidbits you care to share without giving it all away? Because we want people to buy your book.
The main tidbit I would say is that there are three things that people need to do when you are, whether you're working a 9 to 5 or you want to step out and be your own boss, or if you're in that transition of going from corporate to retiring. But there's three things or three C's that I say that people really need to focus on. And that number one is to be confident in your skills and capabilities, be
Yes.
confident in who you are, be confident in your own skin. Number two is to be coachable, because you're going to be learning along the way and you don't know everything. So embrace all the knowledge that people have to share. But thirdly, is to be curious to learn, because this is a learning process and we're going to
Mhm.
learn every single day. So embrace that, be comfortable with that, and then you can be successful.
Yeah, and I think, it was interesting because when I stepped into, um, my business, because like you, I mean, I never thought that I was gonna have a coaching business. Matter of fact, that wasn't my plan, right?
Right.
I stepped into this space because I just enjoyed coaching and I wanted to perfect the skill of coaching, right? And I've told this story before that literally had attended a class and the woman was like, "So, what's the name of your business?" And I'm looking like, "Huh?" And it wasn't until that point that I was like, "Okay, I can turn this into a business."
Hmm.
And I had started thinking about retirement, right? And what I
Right.
could do because I did want to I wanted to retire before I turned 60 and I was able to do that.
Yay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm so excited about that. Um, but I remember speaking to someone who I view as a mentor coach, and they were like, Michelle, all the HR experience that you have, that's what you
Mhm.
need. That's where you need to focus, right?
Yep.
That's where your credibility comes into play. And I didn't think about it because I just, like I said, I love helping people. So the life coaching piece for me just came out of a heart of just wanting to help people in
Right.
general,
Yes.
right? But then I had to switch it to, okay, I need to make this a business.
That's right.
37 years as an
Uh-huh.
HR professional working for 2 Global 500 companies. That's my platform,
Yeah.
right? For being able
Yeah.
to share and sell myself. So, Linda, at what point did you decide I want to be mayor of a small town in North Carolina? Because out of everything that you have done, that one just totally knocked me off my feet when I saw that. I was like, okay, yeah, I see it. Yep. Yep. See her as a coach, real estate. Yeah, I can see her doing that. Mayor, I was like, wow, Linda.
Well, what most people don't know about me is that I have been in politics for over 20 years.
Okay.
And so I do a lot of work within my community. And so I've been a member of our human relations for over 20 years, which is in Granville County. And, that's really helping people understand about, how to treat each other nice and how to be
Mhm.
good citizens.
Mhm.
And so, being on our town council for 20 plus years and then helping to see the town become incorporated,
Mhm.
because that's really where I started. I just fell in love with understanding all around the politics and how things get done and all the infrastructure. And I really got involved mainly because my daughter was a softball player and we didn't have a softball field. So I'm like, darn it, how do we make this happen?
Okay. Okay.
So I got involved in politics because I wanted to make sure that she had a field to play on because she wanted to be a professional softball player. That was her dream. And so when I got involved in the politics, I really fell in love with that process. But becoming mayor was not on my agenda. But as the world has changed, as our community has changed, and as our town has grown, there was an opportunity for me, I believe, to help make some changes. And
Mm.
so I decided to, okay, now's the time for me to do that. And I
Yeah.
also have the time to be able to add more and to be a resource for the community and help us develop and grow.
Yeah. And Linda, how would one prepare for something uh, uh, to become a government official? How would you prepare for that? How would one prepare for that?
The best way to prepare for that is you have to be involved in your community.
Okay.
I mean, that's the main thing, going to different events, helping out when it's needed, being a part of your local chamber of commerce, just really being involved in how can you give back to the community. And that's, starting there helps you create the foundation. It helps you have a better understanding and appreciation for what it takes to run a town, what it takes to run a nonprofit. Um, but that's the best way to do it. But most importantly, get involved by coming to your local town meetings or your
Yeah.
planning board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Go to your school board meetings to find out what's really happening because people are making decisions that impact all of us.
Yeah.
And don't be the first person to say, oh, I don't like this, or why did they do this or that? But if you're involved and you're attending these meetings, you have a better understanding and a better appreciation of how decisions are made.
Yeah.
And so that's the first step and the best step to get involved um, in your community so that maybe you can at some point, take a bigger role.
Right. Right. Linda, I know for me there were times and I really stepped into fully focusing on my business probably about
Mhm.
2017. And then of course, once I retired last year, I'm now that's where a lot of my attention is, right?
Right.
I know I've had to make some pivots along the
Mhm.
way, right? Talk about your pivots and things that you learned from having to make a pivot.
My biggest pivot was in 2014 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm,
And that was, life was great at the moment, working at GSK, things were going well. There were some, organizational changes that occurred. And then, I get this phone call from my physician that, hey, you have breast cancer. And I'm thinking, crap, what do I do now?
yeah.
Um, but
Because that
that was my
because
time
that
to pivot.
happened, because that did happen, like, right at the point where you were getting ready to retire,
Yeah, I
right?
was thinking
Yeah,
about
I remember
retiring.
that.
Then I thought, nah, I'll stay for a little bit longer. But once I got that diagnosis, I was like, the Lord's trying to tell me, hey, you've worked here this long. You trying to get to that 30 years, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to think about something different. And so it took me less than probably 48 hours to decide I'm going to sign up for early retirement.
Mhm,
And I can honestly say it was the best decision I ever made.
mhm. And
Um,
how did you balance? Because you mentioned mother, husband, you got a business that you're running. How do you balance all that?
it's called scheduling.
Okay. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
People ask me all the time, they're like, how in the world do you get everything done? I live by my schedule. Everything is on my cell phone. If it's not on my cell phone, it doesn't exist.
Mm,
And so when my daughter was very active in school and, from middle school to high school, everything was on the schedule. And so I knew, if I had a GSK meeting that ended at 4:30 and her game started at 6 or 4:30, I've got to rearrange something to make it happen, or I've got to delegate. so that I can take that time, because I wasn't going to miss any of her games because it was very important to her, but most importantly, very important to me to make sure that I showed my support. So I had to schedule and reschedule things to make things work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it worked out really well. It still works out today because my schedule is still crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I also put like, and people like, you do what? On my schedule, I have dinner time, I have TV time, so that if when our daughter was home, at 9 o'clock, time for you to go to your room, go to your bed, do whatever. But my husband and I had our time together, and we still
Mm.
to this day have Friday night date night.
Good for you. Good for you, Linda.
Yeah,
Good
so
for
you got to
you.
schedule it. It may sound a little crazy. Why would you do that? But if you want to make sure you don't miss something, I put
Mm-hmm.
everything on my schedule.
Yeah. And it's important because you don't get that time back,
You do not.
right? Especially, with your loved ones,
Yeah.
right? You don't get that time. You don't get that time back. And I'm the same, Linda. I didn't understand. I put my gym, everything is on
Everything.
my calendar. And I even tell people who just want to just network, I'm like, let's put it on. I'll send them a calendar invite because I'm like,
Right.
if it's not on my calendar, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to
Right.
happen.
So you do have to get yourself organized,
Yes.
um, to make sure that you don't miss the important things. And
Right.
we all make time for the things that we really want
Right.
to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. We do.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you say, whether it's entrepreneurship or even governmental office, right?
Hmm.
Preparation is key, right?
Preparation is key. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you and I are both big on planning,
Oh yeah,
right?
I'm a planner.
And I'm a big smart goals person when it comes to, I just believe it's one of those things that help you to be accountable.
Hmm.
And when you have to pivot, you
Yes.
can see the things that you're trying to do and say, okay,
Right.
what can I deprioritize, right?
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean you got to plan every aspect of your life, but at least the bigger things, you
Yeah.
want to make sure that you're doing that,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Because
Yeah,
if you don't, what I tell people is when you create a goal or smart goal or whatever you want to call it,
absolutely.
post it someplace so that you can see it
Yeah.
every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't see it, then you're going to have a missed opportunity because out of sight, out of mind. So I
Yeah.
keep mine posted, and once a month I go and I look at it.
Yeah.
Where am I? Where have I fallen behind?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we oftentimes will beat ourselves up because, it's like, first of the year, everybody wants to lose weight. So do I. But
Mm-hmm.
in 30 days, if we haven't made any progress, we're like, oh, next year.
Absolutely. Which is one of the reasons, Linda, I decided to the last 2 years I've had these JumpStart series,
Uh-huh.
right? JumpStart series. And I focus on health and fitness because, like you said, everybody usually beginning of the year, everybody's like, yep, I want to do better with
Yeah.
working out, eating better, finances. We'll touch upon careers. And this year I wanted to kick off with living your dreams because I do believe the beginning of the year is a perfect time to sit down and just think about, okay, what is it
Mhm.
that you want to achieve this year so that
Right.
you can kind of plot out, okay, what do I need to do to
Yes.
get there?
Hmm.
And you cannot be afraid. It's something else that you said. You cannot be afraid to network. You absolutely need to network. And that's something I'm going to be more intentional about this year because I have more time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Mm,
Yeah. You have to, because network, I mean, it's a cliche, your network is your net worth, but it
yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Because when you hang out with like-minded individuals, you will start to form some of those same habits.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you will learn so much from them that will help you propel to that goal you're trying to get to.
Yeah. 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 And you'll learn what to do and what not to do. Because you'll get what I
Exactly.
find is when I'm networking, I'll find that I'll hear some things like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Or, yep, that's a good, I never thought about doing that. Let me think about how I can incorporate this in what I'm trying to do. I think
Right.
the other piece, Linda, is how do you ensure you're being your authentic self? Because so many times we can see people doing things that we want to do and we
Hmm.
try to imitate, right? What they're
Hmm.
doing and it just does not work.
No,
Right.
it doesn't. Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
It,
Mhm.
it doesn't. And, it's interesting you brought that up because it just brought me right back to GSK because I was imitating at the time because that's what I thought I would need it to do. But
Right.
when you're in your own business and you're making those decisions, you can be your true and authentic self.
Yes.
And it's amazing how people will get attracted to you based because you are yourself. You're not hiding behind a wall or you're not hiding behind a VP or someone else who, has more control than you do. This
Right.
is your business, it's your brand. You make it what you want it to be. And
Mhm.
people will really embrace it. I mean, it's some people were like, it just sounds too good to be true. But it
Yeah.
really is.
It is. It is. And what a big boulder lift from your shoulder when you're able to just be yourself and not act
Yeah.
like somebody else, right?
Right. There's no
Yeah.
stress. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't hate getting up in the morning. You're getting up in the morning because you're making your own money.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's just a huge sigh of relief. Now, I will caveat that to say, not, being an entrepreneur is not for everyone, but there are certain things that you can do to be more entrepreneurial thinking in the space if you're doing a 9 to 5. That
Yeah.
will make your life a little bit easier.
Talk about that a little bit, Linda.
What I mean by that is, before I left GSK, I would tell all my employees that, treat this business as if it is your own.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you will feel better about what you're doing. You will make individual decisions that impact your circle so much more different. But when you just come in and thinking, okay, well, this is someone else's business, I'm going to do whatever, get your paycheck and go home, you're miserable.
Yeah.
So I always tell my staff to treat this like this is your business. How would you handle this? How would you treat your customer? Because you have to be mindful of that.
Right.
Even though, you're not the CEO of the company, but
Mhm.
you are a representative of the company.
Yes.
And so when you start to do that and embrace that, you can take that knowledge with you and create your own business
Right.
because you are like your own CEO.
Mhm. Yeah, you definitely are. And look, we have to own every decision that we make, good or bad.
Absolutely. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Comes with the territory. Comes with the territory.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So Linda, last question for you.
Uh-huh.
What's your advice for someone with a dream that appears bigger than they could ever imagine?
My advice is that number one, embrace it. Because oftentimes we're thinking, oh, I'll never get there. But you
Mhm.
have to embrace it because if you don't embrace it, then you're not acknowledging that you're thinking entrepreneurial and it could be a possibility. But
Right.
if you embrace it, you create a plan around it, and then most importantly, you implement that plan. Now, it may not turn out the way that you think, but you've got some type of a foundation to help you get there. And then when you add in the networking component to it, it'll
Mhm.
just propel like nobody's business. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, how did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
will. And, and I say that because in my speaking business, I thought, who's going to listen to what I have to say? Because, in the training and coaching speaking business, the training and coaching business, yes, people will listen because you're training them. But when
Right.
you are on stage by yourself and you've got to make an impression, you've got to keep them engaged, you're thinking, can I do that?
Yeah.
But if you have a compelling message and you're true and your authentic self and you're telling it from your heart and you're sharing an experience that someone else can connect with, even if it's one person, you have made a difference.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Linda, that's how I felt with podcasting
Yeah.
because I never in a million years thought I would be a podcaster. And I remember, and for those who have followed me for a while know, have heard the story before, but I wanted to get myself out there, right? I'm
Yeah.
focused on my business, and I never forget a college friend had said, Michelle, and she used to do some live streams. She was a therapist, and she said, Michelle, why don't you do a live? And I'm like,
Right.
huh? What? Because Linda, we're used
It's
to
hard.
being in HR too. We're used to being behind the scenes, not really being
Exactly.
in your face, right?
Right.
And but I did it, and I look back at some of the videos from when I first started and see the growth,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
But you can't be afraid to step out there, right?
Mm-mm.
And to know that this has grown to where it is. And for you, and I have the mindset that even if one person watches it, and a lot of times with video podcasters, and I've been part of some networks of other video podcasters, you may not get a lot of people watching
Right.
it the night that you're doing the live
Doing it
stream,
right.
but a lot of people will watch afterwards.
Afterwards.
And my whole my energy comes from, if I'm able to impact just one person gets a
Mm-hmm.
nugget, then
Yes.
I feel like my work is not in vain.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that are in this world, and we don't know what people are going through.
Yes.
And people stroll through and finding different things, but if someone's listening and they hear one nugget and they stop for a second, then you can touch that one person.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's that was one of my fears. Oh my God, I got to do a Facebook Live. Oh my God, I got to go on stage.
I know,
What
because
am I going to
you and I were both doing it around the same
say?
time
Same time,
too.
yeah.
And I'm looking at you and I'm like, see what Linda doing. Okay. Let's see. Let's get this StreamYard thing going together. And I remember you and I having a conversation,
Yeah.
initial conversation about it. I'm like, okay, Linda, we gonna get this stuff going. Woo-wee.
I know. And because I've done so much more speaking, I haven't done as many of the stream yards. So that's one of the things I got to get back to this year. But my schedule's just been so crazy.
Yes, Dr. Linda Jordon, Mayor of Butner, North Carolina. Well, Linda, I'm gonna look and see if we have any comments. I don't see any comments, but if you are out there and you have any comments, please add it so we can see it. And let me see if I can see, because we are on YouTube and both my Facebook pages. I don't see any
Okay.
comments, but know that I appreciate you so much. I'm so glad we were finally able to collaborate, because you and I've been talking about doing
I
something
know.
together.
It's been a while.
And this topic to me, like I said, when I thought about this topic and I heard that you became mayor, I'm like, this
Made the
is
news and everything.
that's right. She done made the news, Lord. I was like, this is the time to bring you on, because I know I have been inspired from watching you,
Oh, thank
and I
you.
know you have inspired so many people by your story, your journey. I remember hearing about when you were diagnosed with cancer, and I'm like, shoot, she just retired, and how is she getting through this? But you are here, and you are here
Yeah,
to tell the story. And
absolutely.
I'm blessed to know you, and we'll stay in touch. Maybe some other ways that we can
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
collaborate.
Yeah, we definitely will. I mean, because, like I said, we haven't always had actual conversations, but we follow each other. We
We
stay
do.
connected.
We sure do. Cheering each
Yeah.
other on
And
from these live stream streets,
I
from these
know.
social media streets, which we have to do. And that's another thing I want to say. If you see someone doing something good, sometimes just send them a message and let them know how
Yes.
much you appreciate them, because you just never know. You don't know what it takes to get to where people are,
Right.
right? The work
Right.
that it
Yeah.
takes to get to where we are. And sometimes just hearing that from a friendly voice is enough to encourage us to keep it moving. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm just so blessed to have the opportunity to be on your platform and
Yes,
share
ma'am.
my story with whomever is listening. And yeah, it's just an honor to still have that connection with you, because
Yes.
you were a
Yeah.
fabulous HR manager.
Yes.
I'll be like,
Look,
Michelle.
look, and you were one of my favorite leaders, because I'm just like, Linda, yeah, we need to handle this.
Yes.
And like I said, you got it done in your way, quiet spirit, but you are a force to be reckoned with. And this
Oh,
is
thank
why
you.
you are where you are today. Right?
Well, I
So,
appreciate that. It's
yes,
been a
ma'am.
pleasure and honor to be with you this evening.
Thank you. I'm going to put you in the green room, and just if you mind waiting there for a minute, and you all hopefully you learned something from Dr. Linda R. Jordan, newly elected mayor of Butner, North Carolina. I really, really, really appreciate her. This is episode 1 of the Living Your Dreams topic. I will actually be live streaming episode 2 of Living Your Dreams next week, and I have joining me some folks who have made some things happen for themselves. Someone who decided to step into the entrepreneurial space because he was just tired of just depending on one set of income from working his day job. I have someone who was an MBA, had an MBA, and was doing administrator kind of work, and now she owns her own tax preparation firm, and then had someone who was looking to just totally switch careers, and she did the work to prepare to do that. So I'm going to have them join me next week to tell their stories, and hopefully you will be inspired by Dr. Linda Jordan and my guest for next week to really step out there in faith and do the work that you need to do to succeed. So that said, you all have a great evening, and look out for the links on my Facebook page. I will also ensure that it is posted on my website. So check my website. If you're not part of my Facebook, friends with me on my personal page on Facebook or my business page. All right. So have a good evening. Happy Friday Eve. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.